Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another review. Today we're looking at Battlemage, Lichdom Battle, what was it? That's right, Lichdom Battlemage. The game has a little bit of an odd title, as you can probably tell from the beginning, and it has a very Skyrim-esque feel. So jumping into the game, let's start by taking a bit of a look at the story. It's mediocre at best, I'm going to be honest. Pretty much the introduction feeds, I'm going to say, the vast majority of the actual storyline. I chose the male character, so I'm not sure what the female character experiences, but for the male character, you're some sort of blacksmith or something, and you're just like there with your hot wife having an enjoyable night of blacksmithing, or whatever it is that you do with your general day-to-day life. And then one of these fancy nobles comes in with a mustache, and you can tell he's evil because everybody that's evil always has a mustache. And he immediately decides he wants to buy your finest sword. Unfortunately for him, that sword's not for sale for some odd reason. Somebody's already bought it or something like that. So of course, being an evil dick, the noble basically grabs your wife and says like, "Ha ha, I'm so evil, I'm going to kill this woman." And you're like, "No, don't kill my wife." And then he gets his henchmen to like slit her throat, and they punch you in the face, and they're like, "Ha ha, take that, because we can be assholes, so let's just be assholes." And then they storm out of your shop, and I don't even think they take the sword. Anyways, after that, you kind of wake up in the streets, and you're like kind of groggy and unconscious. And the funny thing is that the female character that you could also choose kind of wakes up like beside you, or sort of like half on top of you or something. So I don't know if they were just like up to something in the alley or exactly what happened. But you wake up, and the first thing is like, because you didn't choose a female character, the main storyline guy is like, "Hey, you, go away." And she's like, "Yeah, okay," and then just wanders off. And then you wake up in the streets, and then here we are in the beginning of Lichdom Battlemage. Yeah, that's the right title, Lichdom Battlemage. And so then the story begins, I suppose. So the campy intro is one thing, but then you wake up and they have these magical bracers. They're like, like leather wrist straps with like a gem inside, and these give you magical abilities. And then you go off on your little adventure. So clearly we've opened up the game with a revenge story plotline to go and get revenge on the two evil guys that have caused you, I guess, distraught in life by murdering your wife. So off you go, tra-la-la, there's some magical wizard guy is just like, "Hey, you're a wizard now," and then you go kill these guys, and you're like, "Yeah, okay, whatever." So you go tra-la-laing through the town, and it's also some sort of story about some curse that has come down upon the people, and so there's all these kind of like zombies popping up, mostly like, I guess, undead instead of zombies. So the undead have plagued the city, and they're running rampant, and your job is to kind of stop them and go and seek your revenge on these two guys. Now the game runs on the Cry 3 engine, which means it looks really pretty, but it's also extremely taxing on your computer. For the duration of this review, you're probably going to notice some frame dropping throughout the recording of the video. I was running this game on a Core i5 4750 quad-core 3.2 GHz processor and a GeForce GTX 660 with 8 gigs of DDR3 RAM, and I was still experiencing a lot of frame drops. Now, I ran the game on a secondary computer that had even better hardware, and I found that it actually worked pretty well, and I didn't have any frame rate issues. But basically, if you're running a pretty average run-of-the-mill computer, you're probably going to have a lot of issues running this game. I played it on medium most of the time just to try to help my frame drops, and it really didn't go away completely at any point in time. So I've played through the game, and I've made it all the way up to the second primary boss, and there's a lot of, I guess, things to talk about, but not a lot of game to actually be absorbing. So I'll be honest right off the beginning, I do not feel like playing any more Lichdom Battlemage. It's not an overly great game. It's built like a Skyrim concept. You have, your two hands visible as you're walking through the game, and you shoot your spells. Left mouse button does your right hand. The right mouse button does your left hand, which is something I've always found very frustrating. And from there, you just kind of rotate through different spell types and things like that. So the actual mechanics and systems of the game go quite deep. You're going to start off with just a primary fireball when you begin the game, and then you're going to unlock these things, and there's actually these little tutorials that help you unlock all these new abilities that you gain access to, and they're really quite nice. They give you a good chance to experience like what's going on, and they explain things pretty well up to the crafting system, which we will jump into in a bit. So the tutorials tell you like how to block and how to do these different abilities and stuff like that, but I very quickly found myself not really utilizing any of the extra skills that I got. There's like an AoE that you can do when you blink forward. There's a standard shot fireball type of attack. It's just like a direct damage shot. There's an AoE shot you can bring down, and it kind of strikes everywhere around you. And then you can modify these spells a little bit based on the elements that you use. You can store up to 3 elements at a time. So, you know, like fire, lightning, ice. I didn't really use too many of them, again, because I found what ended up happening is as you go through the game, the repetition just repeats indefinitely. Every 15 steps, you're going to run into the next pack of enemies. They're going to spawn anywhere from, in the beginning, maybe 1 or 2 guys to about 10 guys repetitively as you get a little further into the game. The enemies are almost always identical from one pack to the next. So as you traverse through, you unlock a few more challenging, a little harder enemies, but basically you just kind of repeat the same pattern and fight these 8 zombies. The melee ones have these magical shields, so you have to shoot them with like 3 fireballs to knock off the shields. Then you shoot them with 5 more fireballs and they die. They all have the exact same amount of health, so I ended up counting in my head. I'd be like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 fireballs, he's dead. All right, next guy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 fireballs, he's dead, etc., etc. So basically what I'm trying to say is the game is extremely repetitive, and while it's a little bit fun for the combat system, after you do it for the 1800th time, it's not really that enjoyable. It does feel like Skyrim's spellcasting combat. So if you're a really big fan of Skyrim, you're going to probably look at this game and be like, oh wow, this looks awesome, because I love Skyrim and I put in, you know, hours and hours and hours, and I'm going to want to play this. So in Skyrim, basically once I got the fireball spell, I could just knock things down with it, and I had enough infinite mana to shoot unlimited fireballs. I basically walked around the game like a god. I just knocked everything down with fireballs and moved on to the next room, rinse and repeat, and the combat system got really not very fun. The thing about Skyrim that really held it together was that the story was actually really, really fantastic. The world felt alive, there was a lot of side quests and interesting things that you could go and do. Lichdom Battlemage does not have any of this. You follow a linear path throughout the game, and you fight one pack of enemies after the other as you go through the game, and you just basically rinse and repeat the same process over and over, while being fed tidbits of potential story. Now, after you go on your old man quest for a little while, you're introduced to somebody called the Griffin. Basically, as far as I can understand, it's just the game's need to have a hot girl visible at some point in time. She doesn't really seem to serve any purpose at all. Now, the old man has tasked you to be the overpowered wizard to go murder everybody with his newfound fire skills. The Griffin girl has been tasked to be some sort of guide for you. She's supposed to scout ahead and then report back. When she does report back, every once in a while she'll give you some useful piece of information like, hey, there's zombies up ahead. Oh, really? There's zombies ahead? Like there was 10 feet ago and like, there's going to be 20 feet in front of me? Like there's always a pack of zombies ahead. She's really basically a blah nothing character. Her personality isn't overly interesting. Her dialogue isn't overly interesting, and she's just kind of there. Okay, so one of the main systems I want to talk about is the crafting system. Okay, you craft and upgrade runes from the synthesis page. Then you go to the crafting page and you use the synthesized runes to craft actual runes, and then you can slot those into spell types. Then you go to the equip page and you actually equip these synthesized runes that you've now crafted. If it sounds a little bit confusing, that's because it really is. The tutorial sort of gives you a bit of an idea of what you're doing, but in all honesty, you just have to play around with this system to really understand it. So every spell can have 3 potential types of runes: direct damage, AoE, and an effect on your blink forward. Okay, so when you're crafting primary runes for your abilities, you can change how all of the spells will work. So your straight fireball shot can turn into a lobbed fireball, or your fire rain can turn into some sort of fire trap. And you can actually make modifications to your spells, and this kind of crafting system is kind of neat. Now, it's extremely confusing for the player to use, so it's probably not going to be something that people are really going to discover until there's a lot of like wikis and outside information that help you kind of figure out how to optimize what you're making in the game. Personally, because of the actual ridiculous effectiveness of the direct damage spells, 95% of the time all I found myself doing was using these destruction runes, which are basically your primary damage runes. Crafting those up to the highest possible point in the game, and then attaching that to the primary element that I was using at the time, say fire or ice or whatever basically gave me the highest damage output. In order to acquire runes, you basically get those just from walking around the game, killing enemies, they'll randomly drop them, or sometimes there's these little vials that you can hold down the F key and it will pop and give you like a specialized rune. The game kind of feels a little bit like Mass Effect 1, where you get an absolute plethora of items, but they're pretty much useless, small modifications of items that you already have. So you might get a destruction rune, and then you might get another destruction rune that has plus 2% casting speed on it. They're all really negligible upgrades, so it's not really an overly important thing, but all you kind of do is mash all the items together to eventually make one that might be useful or might be an upgrade to you. Alright, so the game had a lot of good features as well. The graphics are absolutely phenomenal. The game looks really gorgeous. It's run on the CryEngine 3, and you're really going to notice right away. It's just the landscapes, the graphics, the spell effects, everything is absolutely pristine. Other than the left-click right-hand, right-click left-hand concept, everything about the controls feels really intuitive. You hold down both mouse buttons to do an AoE attack, your left-click shoots your primary damage spell, your right-click is your block, and then if you want to, you can hit spacebar to do a short dash forward, backwards, in whatever direction you want, and if you hold it down first, it charges up and does a little bit of a pulse AoE effect when you land. So the control scheme is just really intuitive and really nice and fluid to use. So basically when you're shooting fireballs or ice balls or lightning balls or whatever magical ball you've decided to fire at the enemy at the time, it's going to track and hit the enemy for you. The enemy's skills also have auto-aim features which track and hit you. Basically what this means is that aiming is almost a non-feature. You don't even have to worry. You can pretty much turn your mouse wherever you want to, and as long as you're spamming the right click, you're going to hit everybody and have no problems. Because of the enemy skills having a heat-seeking factor, I found it really frustrating to fight some enemies. The usual tactic I found was most successful was usually to stand beside some sort of solid object like a rock or a house, and then dash behind it really quickly when they shot skills at me. It was like you were running away from a homing missile every single time an enemy attacked you. So overall for the game, you can probably tell throughout the review, but I'd like to give you a final perspective on what I think of Lichdom Battlemage. I'm going to have to say I'm going to highly advise against putting $40 into this game. Perhaps when it goes on sale on Steam for something a little bit cheaper, I think it could definitely be worth picking up. The game runs relatively smoothly, it doesn't have a lot of crashing issues, and the combat is kind of fun. As I said, the crafting system has a lot of depth to it that I haven't personally fully discovered, so that could unlock a lot more features to the game that I'm not even currently aware of. So overall, I say hold off, maybe wait for a sale. I think the game's definitely worth some money. I wouldn't say it was worth the full $40. Thank you very much for watching my review. Again, my name is Matt, aka Sciar Rathbun. You can follow me on Twitter at MattSciar, and make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel if you want to see more reviews coming from me next week. Thanks for watching. See you guys next time.